Anatomical drawing in this case just refers to a straight up standing figure, helps us get our proportion down. So I'm going to start mapping it out really loosely here and then measure. So what I have here initially is a really light setup for the figure, right? I have the head. The head's a unit high, the rib cage is about 1.5, pelvis about 1 again. We're about 4 heads to the bottom of the pelvis, and then about 7.5 heads high total. So what I want to do now is then I'll measure. And you want to start with estimating first and then measuring as a general rule, because that's what makes you more accurate more quickly. If you always start by measuring, then you start more slowly and you don't verify how well you're seeing. So now that I have this here, I can go ahead and you can measure with a lot of things. You can measure with a pencil and just count down heights and mark them off. You could even measure with a ruler and use inches if that works well for you and your size of paper. Or you could use something like this, which is like a little protractor, and I can take head heights. Let me just take my head height and I can make little dots down to just start checking things. So I'm going to make little dots or little very faint lines so that I can check where things are. And then I may make them more clear over here, right? Let's say if I have a head height here, I'll just mark it off more clearly here. And then I can keep track of how I'm measuring things. So, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and put this back on time lapse and build it up a little bit, but the things we know, we're about 7.5 heads high, so I'm just gonna start checking and verifying that and erasing. Our shoulders will be her shoulders are about 1.5 head heights wide. So I'm gonna go ahead and start checking and erasing and building things up. I'll go ahead and do that on time lapse. You don't have to sit through all of my measuring and correcting, but that measuring and correcting is really good because that's also what, it hurts a little bit when you gotta change things, and that's good because that's what firms up your idea of proportion and makes your quick drawings actually go a lot faster, because that speed comes from understanding and not really from haste. So here is a book by the great French Academy anatomist Dr. Paul Richet, and on the left there is something super useful for this, which is a canon of average female proportion. So just looking at the one on the left, about 7.5 heads high, the bottom of the pelvis about 4 heads down, and the center of the figure a little bit above that. Basically at the great trochanter, what we've been talking about, the top of the femur, that little bump at the top of your femur. There's also arm length, about 3 heads. This is a really useful drawing. Here's another thing from the book, just showing you a couple of things, like even some variations in the width of the pelvis, and he's saying that even when the pelvis is wide, it doesn't exceed the width of the shoulders. The drawing on the right just shows you a few other variations in proportion. So that's all, I think, really useful stuff as we set up an anatomical figure. Back to the drawing, after the quick proportional review, there's the bottom of the pelvis. I'm going through the whole drawing very light. I'm erasing a lot and making sure I get the big things in the right place. So I'm staying with the dark pencil, and then I'll go back in with the white a little bit after to pull up some of the lights. The big thing about this is making sure my proportions are right, which is the whole point of this. This sort of drawing can really help you shore up your idea of proportion, so that you have a clear idea what you're looking at when you're looking at the model in any number of situations. So here's the drawing without me working on it. Lights from above, so I still have a reasonably clear plane break, place to put the white. I'm not overlapping the light and dark with each other, but again, the big thing is proportion. So I'm gonna do one from the side, and I can just carry these head heights straight over because she's gonna be standing, she's gonna be the same height and proportion. So if I have her to the side, I'm just gonna start exactly the same, which is very restrained and delicate until I get everything down. And there's some quick erasing going on there as I'm trying to line things up and make sure and double check and then check again. Going through, starting with the dark first and then building up and adding some of the lights on as I get sure I'm correct with proportion. Because really proportion, again, I can't overstate the importance of it, because that's really the point of having this figure like this, is to help you
um, understand and be clear about the basic sort of average proportions of a figure, which will help you with all of your drawings.